Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's FY 2017 Fulbright-Hays Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad Grantee Showcase webinar. The purpose of today's webinar is to quickly recap some highlights of the program, go over the application closing, which is just in a few days, and also allow you to hear from some DDRA alums with their kind of tips and pointers and also personal experience with the program. My name is Mariam Ouhamou, and I'm the Acting Senior Program Officer for the DDRA program at the U.S. Department of Education. On this intro slide, we just have some photos from past DDRA recipients of some of their field work in their host countries. And by the way, we are recording this presentation and we'll post it to our website for you you and or your students to reference later on. So the outline of today's webinar, as I mentioned, I'm just going to give a quick overview of the DDRA program in case you're not aware. And then we'll hear from some DDRA alumni. We'll also cover some tips from university project directors, kind of some just heads-up stuff from the authorities. And then finally, we'll open it up for questions and answers. If we don't get to your question during this 1-hour time slot, you can email them to the DDRA inbox, ddra@ed.gov, and we will try our best to answer them as soon as possible. Okay, so the DDRA program provides funding opportunities for doctoral students to conduct dissertation research overseas for 6 to 12 months in the field of more modern foreign languages and area studies. To date, the Department of Education has funded nearly 6,000 individual DDRA fellows. Fellowships range from an estimated $15,000 to $60,000, and these are just estimates. Individual fellowships may vary. These are institutional awards, so that means that the universities apply for and receive funding from the U.S. Department of Education, and then they, in turn, will disperse the funding to their individual fellows. And we are closing in on the application deadline for FY17 DDRA. That deadline is March 14th, 2017, so in, let's see, 5 days from now at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is a hard and fast deadline. G5, the application system that we use, will literally cut off at 4:30 p.m. So if you haven't already started, get started on your application. Okay, so without further ado, we'll get into the alumni presenter section. We have 3 alums that have volunteered so graciously to speak about their experiences today. Andrew Amstutz from Cornell University, who studied in FY15. Matthew Reeder, also from FY15, also from Cornell. And he is joining by webcam, so you'll actually be able to see his face. And then we have Christina Cappy, FY13 from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. All right, so Andrew actually had a last-minute schedule conflict and wasn't able to participate live, but so graciously sent in some bullet points, and so I'll quickly go over those on his behalf. This is his photo. Okay, so Andrew studied in India and Bangladesh on the DDRA for 12 months in 2014, which was 10 months in India and 2 months in Bangladesh. His DDRA research examined a movement of Muslim reformers in South Asia who promoted the Urdu language as an accessible medium of scientific knowledge. He worked in vernacular Urdu and Persian archives in India and Bangladesh while on the DDRA. He says, quote, "The DDRA was absolutely essential for my dissertation research and for completing a dissertation. I would have been unable to connect the range of vernacular archives across the borders of South Asia that was necessary for my dissertation without the DDRA support. I am really grateful to the DDRA for providing me with the support and resources to conduct my research," end quote. He says the DDRA enabled the cross-border aspects of his research project and helped him to conceive the transnational component of the project. As far as cautionary tales go, he warns, as you conduct preliminary research before applying for the DDRA, start thinking about possible affiliations in your host country and even begin the process of securing letters and making these connections early, since this process takes time. Another cautionary tale, after you find out that you've received the DDRA, but before you start your research, look into the requirements for a residency permit in the host country, e.g. the FRRO in India, and start working on those materials in consultation with the Fulbright office in the host country. Otherwise, this process can be really time-consuming when you first arrive to begin your research. And finally, he says, keep receipts for everything, exclamation point. Okay, so next we have Matthew Reeder, who's joining via webcam. And he'll be able to speak to you about his experience, cautionary tales, and the like.
So can you hear me? Can I go ahead?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Reeder. I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of History at Cornell University. I applied for Fulbright-Hays in 2013. I don't know how that makes me a fiscal year 2015 person, but anyway, I started my fellowship in February 2014 and finished a year later. I work in Southeast Asia, and I spent my entire time on the fellowship, which is a 12-month fellowship in Thailand. Most of that time in Bangkok and about 4 months in Chiang Mai. My research is on late 18th and early 19th century and trends towards associating kingdoms with ethnic groups. And so most of my research was conducted in libraries and archives, manuscript collections, and so on. It was totally necessary for my dissertation work, as well as other future projects. I got a lot of experience looking at the kinds of documents that are held in those collections and reading the ones that are necessary for my own research and publication, especially for the dissertation. But the secondary benefit, which was more beneficial than I expected, was just in terms of networking. Because of the requirement, both by the Thai government and also Fulbright-Hays, to have a local affiliation, I developed a pretty strong relationship with the history department faculty at Chulalongkorn University. I gave a lecture there, I attended their weekly events, and I met a lot of their professors and also graduate students. I also met a lot of people in the libraries and other institutions where I work. And so I think that's an important step to develop a sort of network of scholarly colleagues, across the world, not just in the United States, but also in the places where we're working. What many colleagues, faculty and graduate student colleagues who I continue to keep in touch with today and who help me out with difficult problems. I think Fulbright-Hays is I know there are other grants that many of us can apply to, but I think Fulbright-Hays is special in some ways in that the people who are evaluating our applications are also members of our field. They're people who are interested in the same studies areas that we are. And so, we're not trying to, I think, justify our projects in terms of what NGO donors want, or we're not trying to, claim that we're building some better goodwill sort of in general between the two countries rather than more specifically looking at analyzing specific either social issues or historical contexts. And so I think that we're doing the kinds of research that not only is important in the academic context of the United States, but I think it's also very important in a lot of the countries that we're studying, that the local universities or local educational institutions are really interested in work that foreigners are doing about their countries that are kind of pushing the boundaries sometimes. And so I think that's an important way that Fulbright-Hays is a little bit different than some other grants. For working in Thailand, as I did, there's some challenges, special challenges, one of which is that I needed to get research permission from the Thai government before I was allowed to get a research visa, and then I had to get a research visa before I was given final permission by the Department of Education to start my research. So that was actually a time-consuming process, and I'm not sure how many other countries have the requirement. But for me, it took about 2 months plus to get that formal permission from the Thai government to conduct research, and then I got a letter in which I could use to get a visa, and then I was allowed to buy my airplane tickets and fly to Thailand for the first time. And even to get that to apply to Fulbright-Hays and also to get that research permission from the Thai government, I had to have a local affiliation. So I needed it for both of those two purposes. The flight itself, there was a big snowstorm on the day that my flight was supposed to take off, and so I got to do the sort of back and forth of proposing flights on American air carriers and getting them approved, and then they were canceled, and then getting the new flight approved, and so on. So that's a bit of a challenge, I guess, but something that your institutional liaison with Fulbright-Hays will help you work through. And then as Andrew mentioned, it's important, I think, to keep all your receipts, because as it turned out, more things that I bought could be reimbursed by Fulbright-Hays than I thought at first, and so that actually helped a bit. A challenge was that and I'm not sure if the rules have changed since, but Fulbright-Hays had asked me to buy a round-trip ticket in the beginning, but I wanted to stay in the field longer than the year on other funding. So I had to actually and then the airline wouldn't allow me to extend the return trip past the 12-month deadline, so I ended up having to sacrifice that return trip and buy a new return ticket on my own. And so that's I guess a bureaucratic problem, but something to keep in mind if you're planning to stay longer than the 12 months or longer than the set time period that you've gotten your award for. So yeah, just as I mentioned, the biggest benefit for me, in addition to, of course, doing the documentary research that I needed for my dissertation, was just to develop those informal collaborations beyond just my colleagues in the United States, ones that are still active today, and I still have a lot of friends and colleagues and mentors in Thailand as well as in the United States who've helped me with my research. So yeah, I'm happy to answer anyone's questions later. But it's a fantastic, Fulbright-Hays is a fantastic program. I was really lucky to get an award, and I wish everybody luck in their application. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. That was great. Next, we'll hear from Christina Cappy about her research abroad experience.
Hi, so as you said, I'm Christina Cappy, and I recently graduated from University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I received the Fulbright Award in 2013 and then stayed in South Africa for 12 months, basically the full academic year in 2014. I had been back and forth to South Africa a lot before that, and you know, in the time and preliminary research and whatnot, I became fascinated with how education influences the forms of belonging that people express and experience. So how education can create a sense of unity, social cohesion, shared moral values. And so I applied to Fulbright to go and do this research. And when I got Fulbright DDRA, it was actually the second time I applied. And I had applied for numerous other grants as well. So I guess kind of first tale is just keep applying. That's definitely step one. And then what Fulbright allowed me to do is it allowed me to stay for a full year in 3 different communities and attend secondary schools there. So I went to a lot of kind of rural areas. I did ethnographic field work, also urban areas, but all what would be classified as former Black schools under apartheid. So really kind of low-income schools, which there's not a whole lot of research that you find, educational research in South Africa in these locations. A lot of people are kind of bound by where they live, near universities, and so kind of don't go out more to these rural areas. So receiving this award really helped me to be able to do that. They are the most common schools in the country, but the most overlooked schools in the country. So I stayed 1 year in KwaZulu-Natal, living with communities, living with families nearby, having interviews and focus groups. And it was a very rich experience and, yeah, allowed me to finally finish my dissertation this last December. So, you know, I do think that something that Fulbright offers is, as Matt was saying, a really strong network. While I was in South Africa, I met other Fulbright scholars, and also I just met other researchers, like at University of KwaZulu-Natal, who I was able to network with, and I've kept long-standing kind of connections with, and you know, swap papers, and I was able to give a few talks there and just kind of get tips and advice on really kind of practical things while doing field work in schools. Also, the Fulbright was very helpful with getting a visa. Like Matt had said, make sure you apply for the visa early on, but I feel like as a Fulbright scholar, I actually came through a lot faster than other kinds of visas. So that is really helpful. I guess tips for people who are applying right now, I would say, well, apply for your visa early. Make sure you sort out your affiliation in advance. You can't really do that far away in a lot of cases. So when you're doing preliminary field research, I think it took a few months to get the appropriate letters and things that you would need even if you're talking with people. So that is really important for the application. With regard to even the online application that people are probably working on for the next week, that can kind of be complicated. I think I had a corrupted letter of recommendation at one point and needed to get it again. So try to upload it early. Don't push it to the very last minute. I'd say that kind of goes with every application. It's hard to do, though. Keep your receipts, because you will need those. Definitely keep your receipts. And when you're in the field, you know, and you're working with, you know, your affiliation partners or other scholars in the field, try to plan ahead early. So I was able to kind of give some talks and coordinate with people. The one thing I wish I would have done, though, is plan those out a little bit more in advance. You can do that kind of straight on as you're kind of getting set up. And yeah, those would be my main tips. But overall, I'm very happy to have been a part of Fulbright and received the support in order to do such kind of long-term field work in areas where it can be kind of challenging. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. That's helpful. All right. So next, we'll go through some kind of tips and advice from the institutional project directors. These are the folks that administer the grant on the college or university side. So they are kind of your main liaison between your project and the Department of Education. So I work with many of these folks very closely, and if you have questions or a case that seems unique to you, chances are they've actually heard it before from other fellows and from their intimate experience with managing this program. Okay, so the first is be as detailed as possible. Every point counts. Pay attention to the selection criteria and address all the points in your narrative as you prepare your application. Secondly, work closely with your project directors throughout the throughout the application process, as they can be a key resource in answering questions and getting issues resolved. Read through the webinar and application materials thoroughly, especially the guidelines for student applicants document in the application package, as the majority of questions are addressed therein. This speaks to what Christina advised. Try your best and apply. Even if you don't win a DDRA fellowship, you'll get invaluable comments from reviewers who specialize in your particular world area. Former fellows have utilized those comments to reapply successfully to both DDRA and other fellowships in subsequent years. And then to echo what we've heard throughout the presentation, if you're selected, start early on visa applications when you're getting ready to depart for the field, as this can be a time-consuming process. We at ED will facilitate contact with the local Fulbright-Hays commissions in the country to let them know, you know, who's coming, so there are no surprises. But those, you know, it's critical that all your paperwork and all the administrative stuff is handled as soon as possible, so you don't run into any snafus. Okay, so with that, we can go to questions and answers. You can enter your question in the chat box, and we'll try to get to them in this time. I'll also go through some kind of frequently asked questions. Obviously, since we're nearing the end of the application period, we've gotten a ton of questions, as you can imagine. And there are a few of them that I think we could probably knock out right now while you guys, while the attendees kind of get their questions together. So I'll quickly run through those. All right, so some reminders and kind of FAQs for project directors. Please note that the funding opportunity number for this round of DDRA is, and I'll enter it in the chat box so everyone has it. But it's Ed Grants 011317-002. So the application actually has like a placeholder in it. So this was brought to my attention recently. So this is the actual funding opportunity number for this year. We'll also post it to our website, to the DDRA website, so that everyone can see it. And then finally, as we, on the PD side, if you need to update your PD, your project director information, send us an email at ddra@ed.gov. I think there may have been some kind of glitch in the system where newer PDs were reverted back to old ones for this application round for some reason. So go in and check as soon as you can if and verify that you were actually, that the right PD is listed for FY17. And then if not, send us an email of what the new PD's information should be to ddra@ed.gov, and we will update it on the back end. Okay, and then also we have updated the maintenance amounts. So in order to formulate your budget, the fellows' budget, they need to find their corresponding country and then area, like I guess quote unquote urban area, to find out their maintenance amounts in their budget. So in the application, I believe the maintenance amounts were out of date. So we've updated them with FY17 per diem rates, and those are listed on the DDRA website. It's just on the main landing page. There's a link for FY17 maintenance amounts. If your fellows have already submitted their applications, you don't have to have them updated with the FY17 stuff, especially since we're so close to the deadline. We can adjust that when we do the application review, but just so that you're aware in case people are still pulling together their applications, those updated amounts are on our DDRA website. We have also gotten a ton of questions about sort of technical issues with G5. So we're aware of those and are kind of tag teaming with the G5 help desk to answer those questions. Or I would say, I guess most of the issues that we're having is with folks using Mozilla Firefox, which is apparently not supported by G5. So if you go to submit your application or to upload documents and there's no like upload box or submit button, then that is probably an indication that you need to switch browsers. So the recommendation from the G5 tech team is if you're using a Mac, it's best to use Google Chrome. And then if you're using a PC, either use Chrome or a newer version of Internet Explorer. Then we've also received reported issues with recommenders being able to access the link that is sent out to them when a student applicant submits their side, where it says invalid PIN or invalid password, something like that. Due to a system upgrade, downgrade, in G5, there was some of the links that were sent out were invalidated. So if that's the case, if your recommender tells you that they can't access their recommendation form, you as a student can log into your application, update the field for that recommender, and then I think hit submit or whatever the equivalent is, and that should resend that link to your recommender, and then they should be able to access the forms without issue. If you or your recommenders have technical issues, such as that PIN or password being invalid, or trouble accessing the forms or uploading documents, these are all technical issues that the G5 Help Desk can help resolve. I will enter their phone number in this chat box. So they should be able to sort it out. If it's something that's on a more program office type question, such as eligibility or you know, what kind of references you need or something like that, then we, the DDRA program office, can help answer those. And finally, for related to the recommenders, I think it's wise to check in a few days before the application deadline and make sure that the recommender was actually able to submit their reference for you successfully. It's better to be safe than sorry, especially if they encounter technical issues. It may take a couple of rounds back and forth to get them sorted out. So do make sure that they were able to successfully access the recommendation forms and submit them successfully. And you can also do that with your project director. Make sure they're able to view all of your documents in the application and all of that. Okay, and then I got one question so far. If anyone has any, feel free to put them in the chat box. The question is, what if my school does not have a project director? You can email ddra@ed.gov, and I can, with like the name of the school, and I'll see if I have someone listed on my side. The institutional project directors, there's a master list in the application package. They might be slightly out of date, so so it's not necessarily you know, written in stone. But just to be on the safe side, email me at ddra@ed.gov, and I'll look into it for you. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions coming in. So, again, if anyone thinks of anything after the presentation, feel free to email ddra@ed.gov, and we'll answer them as soon as possible. I'll list some kind of concluding important information here. Link to our IFLE DDRA website, also link to our pre-application technical assistance webinar that we hosted last month that goes into more detail about some of the requirements of the application. I've also listed here the DDRA funding opportunity number that I mentioned is just listed as a placeholder in the application. So do note that, and then we'll also, as I mentioned earlier, post it on our website, so there's no question. Again, the application deadline is March 14th, 2017 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If your university or college has an earlier deadline so that they can pull together all the student applications, just make sure you're aware of that and stick to that so that you don't miss being submitted along with the rest of the university applicants. Okay, I did get one question. do flight tickets for awardee and spouse need to be purchased at the same time? I'm not sure of, so I will get back to you. Okay, and then if there's nothing else, I guess we'll conclude. I want to thank Christina, Matthew, and Andrew so much for participating today, and then also to the project directors who submitted their helpful tips and heads up for applicants before the presentation today. We'll post this, we're recording this presentation. We're going to post it on our website, so you can access it if you ever want to recall this information. And with that, good luck to everyone applying, and if you have technical issues, contact the G5 Help Desk. If you have program questions, shoot them over to DDRA at ed.gov. Thank you.